Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to this edition of Art Talk. It is a series of conversations that we have with artists who are visiting in the MCC Fine Arts Gallery. My name is Jim Scherder. I am a professor and chair of the Department of Art, Design, and Photography here at Mott. So welcome and thank you for coming. Today we are very fortunate to have two incredible people sitting behind me. Our artist, who is Nancy Dash, a former professor of psychology here at Mott and also coach of our women's athletics. And then Professor Emeritus Paul Rosicki, who is an amazing person, political analyst. He taught poli-sci here at the university. He's an amazing photographer. So I've got two incredible people behind me that I'm going to turn it over to and let them have a conversation about Nancy's work, the Centennial Prints. So thank you for joining us. If you have questions during the talk, if something should come up you want to know about, just raise your hand. I will come over to you and I will give you the mic so that we can hear what you're saying. Thank you. Yeah.
2-second summary of the college history and how you got involved in this.
Okay.
Then turn it over to you and let you talk about your work. And you know, as you all know, I think Mott turned 100 years old last year, and it's been a college that's gone from 100 students at one point in the 1920s to 13,000 at one point a decade or so ago. It's gone from 3 locations: Central High School, an old sanitarium, and now that's the Court Street campus. And it's going to go on about at least 5 different name changes over its time as well. And Nancy Dash has documented the history so well with her woodcuts. And I've known Nancy for at least 50 years since I've been here.
Yeah.
And one thing, before you even get into your work, let me have you say a few words about your background. I mean, I knew you were a coach. I knew you taught psych. But I was not really aware of all of the art background you had. I knew you did a little bit of it, but until I just saw the posting there, I did not realize. So why don't you give us a quick thumbnail sketch of your own background at the college in terms of the coaching, the psych, and particularly the arts, and then we'll turn to the woodcuts and everything else.
Okay. Well, when I was actually 6 years old, my parents gave me a choice, whether to play some music or take art classes. And for me, I thought, oh my God, there is no choice. I don't want to play anything. I want to draw. I loved color. I thought coloring was everything. And so they took me I lived in Chicago. They took me the only place you would go, Chicago Art Institute. And they had Saturday morning kid classes at 6. So I started, my mom took me on the L to the Art Institute and told me where to go, and I did it. And then the next week, she said, okay, go to art. So I did. I walked down to the L, got on, got off, went to my art classes. That's the way it was in my house. When you were going to, do something, they just let you go do it. And I met my mom after my art class, and so I went from 6 till 10. I was 10 years old by the time I left Chicago. And so that was my intro to art. And then we moved to Syracuse. I actually took classes at Syracuse at 11, and then we moved again, and I didn't do much art after that. In high school, I did a lot of art. Actually, and Jim probably doesn't know this, I did a lot of silkscreen. Was one of my major things, but you had to cut it, a whole different thing. Nothing like what silkscreening is today. And then I never did art again. I went to Michigan State. They said it's incompatible with physical education. You can't major in that. And so my dad wanted me to major in art, but I like to eat, and I didn't think I could eat and actually make a living.
I was going to say, did you ever think about doing art as your number one career?
No. Because all I could think of was that, I need to be independent. I need to have a job that's going to give me an income, and I didn't. I didn't think I could make it as an artist. So I didn't do that. And I went, I never touched a paintbrush again until I quit coaching, because I taught in Pontiac for 7 years. I came up here in 1972, started at Mott. In physical education. I coached the women's basketball team, the women's volleyball team, the men's tennis team. I got paid for that one. And then I started the softball program by getting somebody to coach it. And then I go over there after tennis practice and show them. But, it was a fight. And then I did coaching here until 1991. And after I quit coaching, coaching is all-inclusive. You don't have any time left for anything. And then I talked to, in the only place I ever did any drawing was, and he was a really big influence on a lot of the things I liked. Kevin Caskey was an old professor here. He's long since deceased, but he, at faculty meeting, come on over to my drawing class, come in, and I did. I sat in his night class occasionally and drew. But then when I retired from coaching, I ran into Sam Morello at a coaching class, and if you don't know him, he walks on water, and Sam was the greatest guy in the world. And I went to him and I said, I want to take some art classes. Now that I'm not coaching, I have time. And he said, okay. I said, do I take drawing? He said, oh no. He said, you take 2D, the two-dimensional design, for those of you who aren't in the art department. And of course, it's the most hated class here. Well, I took that class, and I love that class. I mean, it's color theory, and it's so cool. It was wonderful. I loved it. So then I said, okay, Sam, now do I take drawing? Oh, no. You take print from me. So I took print from Sam. I was a dutiful student. I read the book. I'd go in and we'd do what he said. I read the next chapter. We did what he said. Then we went to the chapter on aquatint, and I read the chapter. And what the hell is that? It did not make any sense whatsoever. He said, don't worry about it. Of course, aquatint is the best. I loved it. And so I took print from him for years until he retired. And of course, then we had another person come in. And then finally, Mary Berkmeyer came in, and she was wonderful. But I had started doing woodcuts, and I loved woodcuts. And so that's where we got to woodcuts. And
That's where we are today with all of this.
yeah,
Exactly.
with most of my woodcuts,
good.
yeah. Yeah, I did take some classes with Jim Ames over at the FIA at night too, watercolor classes. And Jim has a big following. I think he's still around.
Yeah.
So that's my art background, and I've taken every course here. Sam made me take sculpture because he said it will make me more three-dimensional and make my work three-dimensional. And then he made me take ceramics, and then I finally got to take all the drawing classes that I wanted to take. So I had all the drawing classes 2 or 3 times. Bonnert's advanced drawing was one of the ones I kept taking over and over. Figure drawing, advanced drawing. And I took painting from Dempsey 1 semester and 3 semesters from Tim. And so I'm still learning how to paint. I took printmaking. I went over to register for printmaking back in the early, 2000s. And the girl, I said, I want to register for print. And she said, you've had the class 19 times. And I just looked at her and said, well, I'm a slow learner. She didn't even laugh. But anyway, the studio here and the people here in this department are absolutely the most magnificent people to learn art from. And as an artist, I was, as a new student, when you're 60-some years old, coming into the art department, I was terrified. And even the kids were pretty nice to me. But it was, it was just a challenge to come in and be an artist, not because I didn't just grow up doing it. I mean, really. And then Jim has let me be whatever I want to be. Lets me go in there and just do whatever I want to do, which is great. And I want to make sure I thank Josh for all of his help, because he has just been terrific. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. But when I came in here, and last fall, I was on an independent study, and Jim says to me, it's the centennial anniversary next year. And I said, oh, okay. He said we were going to do a mural. Well, we didn't do the mural, but he said, I need some woodcuts of maybe some buildings. We could do that. So then I got your book out. And
That's what, for the 100th anniversary,
Right.
all of the buildings are really the history of the college in so many ways here. But yeah, tell us how you got inspired to tackle all these buildings and as part of the 100th anniversary.
The pictures in your book, some of them are real questionable.
There was one that was very much out of focus for some reason.
I had it marked. Yeah, there it is. All right, this is the picture
Yeah.
right here of the old sanatorium. Yeah,
That was a college during the 30s,
That was
40s, and
the-
early 50s.
yeah, and I love the I love the building. I can't say I love the picture,
Yeah.
but I love the building, you know. And so I thought, wow, that's really cool. So I proceeded to draw it, and I drew it on tracing paper. Why? Anybody know? Not really. I mean, I did end up doing that, but what is there about a woodcut that's unique when you do one? Yeah.
Yeah.
You do it backwards.
Yeah, you got to do it backwards. And if I didn't do that, I would have drawn it the way it is here, and it would have printed backwards. And all my work would be, so I'd use a lot of tracing paper, because then this is the side I actually drew. And, you know, when you look at
Yeah, tell us how some of these things came together.
oh, right here.
There you are.
Yeah, okay. This one, you know, you can see that basically this was my drawing, and then I traced after I drew it, and I hand drew it because I had no other way to do it. So I hand drew it, and then that becomes the woodcut backwards. And, you know, you can stylize it any way you want. But when you do a woodcut, like the first thing I do is when I draw it, if I did this last night just so you could see it, there's a grid on the back of that, and there's a grid on this. I just use a grid to draw. You know, I freehand almost everything. I don't trace, you know, I'm not real good at that, so and I never know what size I'm going to do. Sometimes I'm going to do bigger or smaller. So there's a grid on there, and then there's a grid on here. The next step after I've drawn it is to, and I started doing it there, to do it in Sharpie. And I do a whole thing in a Sharpie over the black lines, over my drawing. So everything will look like it's in a Sharpie. You can see this one. That Sharpie's all over this. It was just drawn in a Sharpie. And then what that tells me is if I like the picture that's got the Sharpie, then I can just cut all the white away. And so the drawing is kind of a process. And when you're drawing, you know, you take that, and if you like the drawing, then that's what you're going to get, only reversed. And some things it doesn't matter if you reverse it, but other things it does. This particular one is it's a sailboat, but I wanted to be able, I've already got this one cut on one plate. So I wanted a copy of the plate in case I wanted to make another color and maybe put the clouds in blue or something, the waves in blue. So I would cut out everything else and leave what I wanted to cut, and it will match exactly that one. So in order to get that, I had to run the copy of the original. This was the original. This was the original cut. And I leave it wet, and I put it on here, and now I have it reversed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then I run it through the press, and I've got this image. And then I can recarve without having to redraw.
How much time does it take to do something like this? I mean, just the sheer effort of it.
This one was a pretty big project. Yeah, this was, it took a while.
Yeah.
But most woodcuts I can cut a block in a week.
Hmm.
Although these were a little bit faster than that because I didn't have as much time. I was getting my shoulder replaced in March, so I had to be done with this project by then.
Beautiful work.
So, it's like whatever time. The other thing is you have to decide what kind of paper you want to use. When you're doing a woodcut, you can do just about any kind of paper that you want. Because the paper itself, most things are done in print if there's an etching or something on BFK or a good heavy-duty water paper that will absorb the water that you would then blot out and do it. And so that I decided on the paper after the fact, usually. And I did this on both BFK white and on this, what is called banana pulp paper. That is what I use for an awful lot of my stuff, which I like a lot. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to talk about carving. Once I have this drawn, I carve. And a lot of you, want to know, well, what do you carve with? Carving wood is difficult in that it takes a lot of sharp tools. These are tools that I use to carve with. And the carving part is the part that I like. I mean, I think if some people like different things, but it's meditative to me to just sit there and carve. And some of it takes a long time. Some of it's kind of boring because it's just an open space. You're just getting rid of stuff. That's not the fun part. The fun part is all the little idiosyncrasies. One of the ones that I spent a lot of time on was the bear. It's over there. And it's got a lot of little things on it because of the way Kathy put the thing together. I was part of that bear project. So that was in my sculpture class. And so I have a love for the Mott Bear. And it was cool.
Well, wasn't the bear kind of an art faculty project, I think? And a number of the art faculty were part of the bear project. I may fill in some details on that, but
Well,
that's my understanding.
it was a sculpture class.
Sculpture class,
And
yeah.
it was a sculpture class, and we spent a year. The first year, really, it was a 2-year project. The first year we studied bears. Literally studied bears. We went out to Formar. They have a bear out there.
Oh, yeah.
We
Yeah.
went we went to places and looked at bears on our own to see what they were like. Went to Oakland, looked at their bear that's ugly. We just studied bears. I was out west, and I went through bear someplace. We went through a bear country thing. I could drive by, and I took all these pictures of bears, And then we came back, and we all had to model bears out of clay, and make up a bear. And eventually she got a bear that we liked, and then we decided how it was going to be posed. And then she made an actual small bear like that. And then after that, we went to building the armature for the bear, which was, I learned to weld. I had never welded anything, but we had to weld the armature. And then after we welded the armature, we took styrofoam, and we would literally take these big blocks of styrofoam and put them around the body with duct tape. We had this white bear who was, and shave off things with knives, and then duct tape the whole thing. Then we finally got to clay, only we got to this awful clay. It's plastic clay. It's the clay that never hardens. It's nasty. Plasticine, is that what it's called? Yeah, well, I don't like it. But we used it, and we all were putting that on, and we were working it until she got it the way we wanted. Once she got the main bear, then she decided she wanted all those little things on it that made it look like fur or something. And so we did that. If you've not been over to see the Mott Bear, it's in front of the field house.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. But we did that. Once that was done, then we had to make a mold of the bear. So we had to use, it'd be like mixing epoxy. You had to put two things together and stir it up, and it was a goo. And then you put the goo on, and it had to harden. And this is a big bear. I mean, it's, weighed about 500, I don't know, a lot of money, a lot of pounds. And then once it hardened, then they cut it off in pieces and sent it down to the bronze people who built it and made the thing and then put it together. Oh, we also spent a day going out looking at rocks for the foot to sit on. But it was good. So Jim presented me with this proposal to do these, and I did them.
Yeah, tell us how you kind of pulled together all the stuff for the 100th anniversary buildings here.
I went out and took pictures, and this was November, so the pictures were ugly because there was no grass, it just wasn't a good time. But I did take pictures, and some of them I didn't have pictures of everything. So Jim had students or somebody. Oh, you went out and took pictures. Okay. So then we got a whole collection of pictures of all of the buildings, some of which I didn't even know existed because I thought that the house was the conference center, and I didn't know anyway. So we got pictures of the different buildings, and I think there were, 15 buildings and a bear, something like that. And so I picked a building, and then once I got the building, I put them all on my computer, and then I flipped them all. Because, again, the first thing I needed to do was make sure I did it in the right order. So I flipped them, and then Josh and Jim gave me wood. And I said that we'd keep it about, a sheet of paper size, roughly. And I ran off the pictures backwards. And then, again, like I said, I rarely trace things, but I tried to pick out things, and I added like a few things to the trees, or like leaves that weren't there. And if there was an umbrella stand, I might put an umbrella on it. Just stuff like that. And stylized each picture as I drew it on a plate. And I drew like 5 plates. And then I'd come in and I'd carve. And I'd start carving them. And once I got them carved, then I would think about printing them, a proof. You always print a proof. And in order to print wood, if you notice that on this one, the edges on, I wouldn't draw it with that on it, but I put that on there just to show you that if I was going to ink this now, it would be carved. I would put that over there. And then I would decide on a roller size. Now I might want to use a big roller. Somebody didn't clean that roller. I guess it's just there. But you look at how many times you want to roll it and how much blank space there is. Because I'm going to be rolling like this. And what kind of, like if I do this one, that's fine. And actually, depending on the plate, if I'm doing Central High School, I might want to find a roller that's about the size. Take it off.
There you go. There you go.
If I use this roller, I'm going to have ink all the way over the top. So I might choose to go with this one so that I can just do this part, and then do this in a couple of swipes. You can pick the rollers that you want based on what plate you're inking. Then you have to decide not only what roller you're going to use, what kind of ink you're going to use. Most of the time, in the last 5 years, have been using a water-based ink. But this project, I felt called for litho ink. And this is what this is. And this is a processed black. And it's just a straight black ink. But when you do this, you have to mix it. And you mix it with what's called tint base. What that does is it makes it smoother. And it also makes it thinner, a little bit thinner. Because this is pretty thick. This will thin it out. And if I were going to do colors or something, I could put a lot of this in and very little ink and make it transparent. But I wouldn't use black for that. And then you use a little of this, which is Miracle Gel, that just helps set it. I didn't mention that when I carve a plate, I carve like this, with my glasses on and with a magnifier and a light. And I got this new carving thing from my friends, and so it's really nice. I have an old one that is just awful, but I now have nice magnifiers to carve with. And you can see really close up with those. So it's cool. And so the ink and these tools, and these are more tools. I have tons of tools. You sharpen them with a whetstone. I have a big whetstone in the closet. You always are using these and just bringing them on here and strapping them to keep them sharp. Sharp tools are so important. If you don't have them sharp, they don't work. It's just, and wood is not forgiving. I mean, if it breaks, it breaks. There's no going back and putting something over it. Yeah, Linda. These are mostly birch plywood. It's birch, and I try and find the best side of the plywood. Michigan Lumber has got very nice birch ply. If you're in town here, that's really where I recommend getting wood. But the other thing I recommend is making sure that whatever you're doing, if it's important to you, try and get the grain to go the way you're going to carve most. Because it's a lot easier to carve with the grain than it is against the grain. Yeah.
Is it Baltic birch bark?
Is it what?
The plywood that you're using, is it Baltic birchwood plywood? That doesn't have the hollows in it.
No,
That
I
way,
don't know.
when you're carving it, you don't
Yeah,
have...
this one, sometimes they end up with bad spots on the back. I don't know if any of these do. But I've had them where, there's a bad spot on one side. And unless I plan to use both sides, which I rarely do, sometimes I do. In fact, if I want a background, a lot of times I'll use the back and just ink it, make a background, and then put something on the other side. It gives you a two-color plate with exactly the same size. You know, just another way to do a woodcut. But they're, you know, carving the plate is a fun thing.
Sounds good.
Um,
Let me ask you one more thing. In terms of the buildings here, did you find any of them more challenging, more difficult, or easier than the others as you tried to work through all those buildings?
Yeah, for sure. The hardest building to do was the one downtown.
Oh, yeah. All the
You're looking
detail.
at it like, oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and the reason it was hard is I wanted the bricks, I wanted to get the feel of the brick, and so that to me was difficult. It was very plain because it's just on the corner there. That was hard. The bear was not an easy, one. And the library, I had a lot of fun with the library.
Mm.
I really enjoyed the library because I thought it was interesting. I think it's one of the most interesting pieces. I mean, buildings are kind of boring. Central High School was a challenge
I would think.
because I was squeezing it into such a small area.
Yeah.
So it was very tiny, and that was hard. I don't like the Crowdy Center because I tried to put the bricks in, and I'm not happy with bricks, and I'm not terribly happy with the President House one. It's the brick
Mhm.
stuff. So, but I like the Prawl Center. I like the way the roof comes out on that.
Yeah.
It's and the field house came out pretty good, so I'm relatively happy with most of them. They're fun.
Any other questions? Now, for the future, are these going to go into any kind of school archives? I mean, all these prints
I have
are a very
no idea.
valuable resource.
I printed. Well, I didn't just print. I got an assistant. Some of you know Shirley Owen. She's
Oh, yeah.
a friend of mine, and she's never printed anything. But I taught her how to put the plate on the press, put the paper on, put the mat board on, and to roll it through. So I would hand her, I didn't have to get up. I'd sit there at the table, inking, getting it right, and then after I'd hand her the plate, she'd go put it on, and she'd run it through. And we did 4 plates a day, five of each plate.
Mm-hmm.
So we did 20 prints a day. And she came in, with me every day, and we printed together, and she helped me get them all done. I have 5 of this paper. I have 5 of the white paper. And that was because we thought that the white paper, if we were going to do a mural, the white paper would look better if he was going to blow it up and do something with it in large size. Because he could put it on a computer and just blow it up to any size he wants. Yeah. Oh, okay. So, started to think about something else I was going to say, but I don't remember what it was.
So, Paul, to answer your question about what's going to happen with these, so the goal is that they will find a permanent home here on campus, the
Good.
framed ones that you
Good.
see here. As Nancy mentioned, because I'm not nice, and I was like, oh, would you print an edition of all of these as well? The goal is that we are going to have that edition, those extra prints, will become available for purchase as
That's what I was thinking.
as a scholarship
Very good.
fundraising opportunity, which was incredible that you were so willing to do that. So thank you.
It was, it kept me busy.
It kept Shirley busy too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shirley. Yeah, she liked doing it. She had a good time doing it. It's a fun thing to do. And yeah, I mean, go through a lot of tape. By the time you tape it and then rip the tape off, put the tape back on, rip it off, you go through a lot of tape, you go through a lot of, you wash your hands like
Yeah.
10,000 times because you got ink on them. The bad part about this ink is that you had to clean it with mineral spirits. And that part was difficult because, that's why these plates look different than some of these other plates, because the other plates were done with water-based ink. And so they came out clean. Doesn't stain as much. But after I did cut the plates, I sealed the plates. And I forgot to say that. I sealed it with a clear shellac. I spray shellac on them, 2 coats, so that they don't look too bad, but they do it still sinks in. And, but you're also seeing the black line underneath the seal from where I drew it, so I knew where to cut. And you can look at the plates closer if you want, and any of this stuff. So.
Nancy,
Well,
can I ask you a question? I'm sorry, Paul,
Sure.
I didn't mean to step on that moment. Why did you choose litho ink over the water-based ink? You said it seemed like this needed litho, so what was the reasoning?
I talked to Nancy Pennell about it because she knows her inks really well too, I think, and we've used a lot of different inks. I was finding that I was using my own ink. It's Charbonnel, thank you. Charbonnel ink, and I did not like the texture I was getting when I was running it. It was too thick, and I didn't have a thinner base they don't have the transparent base with that Charbonnel, so I ended up deciding I'd just go with the ink that I was really comfortable with, because I've used this for years, and it's just good ink. But,
Let me
yeah.
ask, no other question, go ahead. Yeah, yeah,
My life's fortune.
yeah, look at that word, look at that kit of carving tools there, it's impressive.
Yeah. Well, and then did I drop? I must have. Yeah. This thing right here. I don't know if anybody looked. This is for my little finger. Okay, because if I don't use this on my little finger as I carve, I'm usually carving and I'm going down the side here, and I rip the side of my.
Because see, do you get a
skin
lot of
off.
slivers with that kind of?
No, I get the skin right off my
Yeah,
side of my
I can see
my
that.
finger.
Yeah,
And this was given to me by Anna Marie Rado, and she gave me 3 of them, and I'm on the 3rd one. So yeah, very important. But that's stuff you learn when you're carving.
oh, let me ask one, unless somebody else got any more questions here, let me ask, what next for you? What's your next art project? This has got
Well,
it's a
I
huge
brought
project
that
here.
in because I'm taking Tim's class, right?
Yeah,
And so I needed to do a landscape, and I thought, I think I'll try and do the old building. And I think it looks better than the picture in the book, you know.
it does.
So I just keep doing stuff. I still like carving. I do a lot of watercolor in the summer because I don't have as much space for. I do some prints up there, but I'm up north and I have a watercolor group
Yeah.
that works with me, and they like to do watercolor, and they do really well. So we do a lot of watercolor. Yeah.
I see you using hatching or cross hatching in a lot of your works.
Yeah.
I like to do that a lot in my drawing.
Yeah.
Is there any transitional error when you're coming from like your transparent paper to your wood?
You know, cross-hatching is hard, and I didn't bring any with me, but I've done a lot of bird feeders. They sound, but you know, they're X's, and I either have to go with the single line and cross them, or I literally have to go with the diamond in the middle. and transition between the two. But the only way you're going to get a different shade of color if you're printing in black and white, which a lot of my stuff is black and whites, is to crosshatch, or if you look at some of these, this one over here, you'll see that I have little tiny pieces in there to get it to look like it's not clear. And I have lines over here. That isn't in the building, but that gives you a different feel for the color of the building. What do you mean by that?
I said, do you ever have any trouble like with any type of bleed effect? Like, if you put marker down, it'll bleed. Does it do anything like that when you're carving, or if you use a burning type of tool?
Oh, I don't burn. No, I carve. I carve, and sure, there's times when I've taken out big chunks that don't belong there. And I have two options, really. If it's something that I think I could do with a Sharpie and fix it on the final print, I could do that. But otherwise, you just either incorporate it into your drawing or do something, because it's there. I mean, I was carving something with a block of whatever we were carving with, and the whole middle part disintegrated. It just fell apart once I got into the inside of the stone. And so I just restructured the whole thing. You just have to go with what it is. Yeah, well, things just happen. And either that, or you just, have you ever, I don't know, maybe you guys are a little young, but if you ever get to Italy and you go see the David, Michelangelo's David, and you walk in and they've got all the pietas, all of the unfinished pietas, and there's a whole slew of them. And they don't have heads, they don't have whatever. And you got to think about what happened. Those are his junk. He threw them away. Somebody went and got him out of a pit, and put him up there. But if you think about it, that happens. And it doesn't just happen to me. It happens to all kinds even the masters threw stuff out. Everything you do isn't going to be wonderful. I actually did the old sanatorium twice, because what happened is I forgot to flip it. I literally forgot to flip it. And I had it mostly carved when it hit me. So, it's not like people, you do stuff, and you do it over, and you don't like everything you do, and it's just the way it is. There's one woman that was here talking. She was a watercolorist. Every time she painted something, she put it in the bathtub and washed it all off, let it dry, and then started again. And she'd do it like 6 or 7 times with the same picture. She'd do like one picture in a month or 2 months, because she kept putting it in the bathtub. Yeah. Huh? I don't remember her name, but she did beautiful figures. She gave a talk in here. I remember. It was quite a few years ago, but it was good. Anything else?
Yeah, any more questions from anybody, or do you have any final thoughts, Nancy, you want to share with us?
I'd just like to thank you all for coming and listening to me rant. And if you want to come and look at this stuff up close, feel free. You're welcome to. Just don't steal my tools. And thanks, Jim, Josh, and whoever's doing the video.
Well, on behalf of all of us here, Nancy, I want to thank you, because this was a huge undertaking. And you say I just let you do anything, but we know that's not 100% true. But this is one of the few times I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And I cannot thank you enough for saying yes, because I absolutely love your woodcuts. I always have, and to see them to represent this 100 years of the college is amazing,
good. That's good.
especially considering your history here. So thank you very much for that. You
Thanks.
are amazing.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you too, Paul, for your
Glad to be-
willingness to come, because I know you two and your history together and being here at the college, you seem like the perfect person to talk
Good to be here.
today, especially because of your institutional knowledge. So thank you very
It's
much.
Good to be here, yes, yes.
I also want to make sure we thank Brian Williams
Yeah.
and our media services for recording today's event and streaming it for us. Nancy has mentioned Josh Justice, who is our gallery coordinator. Thank you, Josh, for making this show look so beautiful. You are awesome. Thank you so much. And all of you for coming today. Our next talk, or our next exhibition, will feature the work of former professor Doug Warner. So we'll be exhibiting his works.
Doug Warner, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So yeah,
cool.
Patty will be bringing in his work, and we'll have an exhibition of that. And hopefully we'll have some of his former students and Patty have our next art talk to discuss the impact Doug had on them and on this department. So thank you all again. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you.